Yo, what's up? This The Edge, once again, Create Life Podcast. Today, I got something different, and the thing about Create Life, we try to do everything in life. Today, I have Robert Galinsky. I call him the Great Galinsky. He's the performance coach. He's somebody that helps everybody take their stuff to another level. When I got into speaking and trying to get in front of people was something that was different for me. And this is one person that was put in front of me that actually helped take my stuff to another level. And not only myself, he's dealt with multiple celebrities, a lot of people that's on Broadway. I mean, he'll be able to tell you all those things. Galinsky, I appreciate you coming
Edge,
on.
thanks for having me in here, Edge.
My man, the great Robert Galinsky. So when we talk about performance coaching and you're actually a performer yourself, like, what got you started in that field?
I was getting in trouble as a kid. And then I walked into a poetry reading. I did a piece and people responded. And I said, I like that feeling. And then I realized that I got a voice and I can send a message. So that's primarily how it was. I got response from an audience, felt good. I went home that night. I liked this. I came back the next day and went for it again.
So when we talk about taking on a career or taking on a profession, you usually have some type of schooling or some type of training.
Yeah.
Like for yourself, is this real and raw, or did you have to go to these different schools to actually learn about it?
It's been raw. I've had good mentors. I'm sure you understand that. Like, I'll name one of my mentors, Amy Seaham. One day, she said, you're going to teach a class. And I was like, I teach a class? I never taught a class. She goes, you know how to teach, go teach. She threw me in the water. Another guy named Josh Harris, you're going to edit video and make good videos. Never knew how to do it. Started to do it. So, not thinking so much. That's part of my philosophy. When I talk to kids in jails, prisons, and elsewhere, and even my actors, don't think so much. Be in the moment, feel your gut, trust your instincts, trust your story, and let that flow.
But when you take on something like this, there has to be some type of teaching or tutelage that say, okay, this is the process. And for me, and the thing about Creative Life, I love the fact that there's so many people that are successful and they don't go the traditional route.
Yep.
But you have the traditional route, which is the safe route, and it's safe to say that you didn't go the traditional route.
Yeah.
But you perfected
Well, I got, like I said, I had good mentors, so that was the teaching. I got 3 principles I could share with you that I had actually shared when we were working together, that a stand-up comedian gave me when I was 17 years old. Never forgot it. Never deny, always reply, never ask why. 3, this is magic. Never deny, say yes to as much as possible. Always reply. Reply to what's going on. Life, everything's a gift, even the interruptions. Don't ask why. When you're presenting, performing, you got to be in the moment. Why is about analyzing. You don't do that when you're on stage in front of people. You do that before you get there, you do that after to debrief, but while you're there, you just stay in the moment.
I love that. No, of course, you taught me that. And
yeah.
Those little teachings, they help. We've gotten so many sessions in. But beyond that, it's more about everybody else, because on Creative Life, it's about, I have 5 pillars. The 5 pillars of mindset, self-mastery, financial freedom, community networking, lifestyle, leisure. And all of them are connected to life and trying to do things, or they bring about things that could help you elevate in life.
Yeah.
I look at things from a positive standpoint. And when you go into this field, but it's like, they say one of the most intimidating things to do is public speaking, and you do it effortless. You sit up there and you control the crowd. You actually help others like myself get in that field.
Yeah.
And that's something that I don't think is normal, because to be able to do that effortless when it is known as one of the most intimidating things to do, it says a lot about the person.
Well, I appreciate that, and I feel like being in the moment is the key, and nobody knows what happens before you go up. Like I was coaching the TEDx Teen Talks for 10 years. I met Chelsea Clinton. I met GZA from the Wu-Tang Clan. And when GZA was in the back getting ready to go out and do his piece at the TED Talk, And he was like a nervous wreck. I was like, Jizzy, you rock in front of hundreds of thousands of people with your concerts. You're nervous. And he was like, yeah, I'm nervous, man. I haven't been in this venue, this type of thing before. So even the ones that look like they're elevated, everybody has that moment, that weak moment, or that unsure moment. But when you get out there, as you know, like you get on the field, you get out in front of people, when you're talking, you just got to go. You just got to go and forget all that.
So and that's the thing, for somebody who has never done public speaking, let's take them through the process, or like if you had to teach somebody, or you had to tell somebody, like, I know you've never done this, but when you get out here, I want to make sure that you're polished enough and confident enough to where the audience wouldn't even realize that this is your first time.
So your principles, mindset and self-mastery, that first one right there is that. What is your mindset? You got to have a killer mindset. So I prep people to be like, I look at what's their strength. That's what we're focusing on. We can critique ourselves all day long. You got to be strong when you get out there. You can curl up in a ball when you go home at night in your hotel room and cry if you want. But when you're out in front of those people, you give what really is in everybody is power and strength. Another thing is give me a second here with this one. Another thing is that what you have, no one else has. What you've lived, no one else has lived. And I tell my students, whether you're 9 years old or 99 years old, you are packed with information and experiences. And if you can tap into that and trust your gut and trust your instinct and come from that, you already built confidence because it's yours. You're not trying to do something somebody else did. And we benefit from it because we have never had your experience before. So that's part of it. Self-mastery, not doubting, those 3 principles. Jerry Diner gave me those principles. Never deny, always reply, never ask why.
I love that. I always talk, like, even when you speak on the confidence part, I try to instill that in my seeds to, like, when you know what you know, like, you got to stand behind it, and that's going to give you the confidence. And that right there is, that it's a teaching to where it goes beyond what you're saying to them, but you can tell when a person really knows what they're talking about, and that's where confidence comes from. I think confidence is breeded from I know what the fuck I'm talking about.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? I know, and then I'm going to stand on it. You see some people get frustrated and mad, and you see the energy, but that's where the education comes from, and that's why I try to make sure that I'm always learning. I'm always making sure I know what I'm talking about, so when I do something, I do it with confidence. And it actually takes it to another level. It's
one of the things I admire about you is your confidence, watching you walk into rooms. And you don't have to be the loudest person in the room. You don't have to be the most flamboyant person in the room. You just read the room and feel, where do you fit in? How do you fit in? How do you fit in or take over? And I think another thing about confidence is, like you were saying, about what you know, but admit what you don't know.
Exactly.
That's super confidence right there, when you admit what you don't know.
Like, what's kind of odd to me, you have people that don't really know what's going on, but the pride and the ego make them want to actually be the voice in the room.
Yeah.
And so I've seen the most successful people, and I've actually, like, it reminds me of myself. It reminds me of why you are where you are, why you are where you're at, is when you don't know, you sit back and you take everything in. You're not going to try to keep this image up of, I got to know everything, I got to do everything. I sit back, I watch everything, and I try to make sure that this moment right here, this moment means it's time for me to learn. I think that's an insecurity to say, look, man, I'm in a room where I really don't know a lot of people.
Yeah.
I really don't know what's going on. So let me learn as much as I can. This is my time to learn. And that thing has helped me so much. And I think it'll help so many others, because when you go in these rooms, you get respect from being pure.
Exactly.
And real. And if I'm real in everything that I'm doing, it's like people are going to respect it. But if I try to put on, somebody's going to actually recognize that.
People can smell it now.
Yeah. You can sense it.
Yep.
And I find myself in those situations where it's like, this is a time to learn. So I've I've come up with like these little different segments. Like if I'm going somewhere, I say, look, this is my learning moment. You know what I'm saying? This is my, and then I go into a room where it's weak. This room is weak. This is my teaching moment. You know?
Great. Yeah.
And then I go into other rooms where we're all on the same level. I say, this is when we collab. This is when we kind of
That's great.
rub off each other. And I think those are the type of things that are much needed, you know, in society in general, because that's where a lot of the fluff comes in at.
I think with social media and everybody having the ability to now broadcast what they do in their lives, some people mistake showboating and panache with authenticity. And I think you need to be able to have panache and showboat. You need to be able to flare up and be a peacock. But if there's nothing at the core of that, then that's all it is. And that's easy to see through.
Right. I agree with
you
that.
know, I feel like also that when I go to auditions, or when I tell my actors, you go to auditions, you'll find three types of people in the room. Because I have a phrase called energy is contagious. What are you getting? What are you spreading? Right? You got three types of people in those rooms. Everybody's there to go audition for a role. It's a job interview, a first date, a role in a movie. You walk in that room, and there's the nervous type. They're nervous. They're like, oh, I can't believe I'm here. I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm not sure if I was prepared. I didn't get enough sleep last night. You stand next to that person, that's contagious. You get nervous too. The other person is the networker. Oh, how'd you get here? Who's your agent? Where'd you get your pictures done? Oh, you need to know about this. And I'm trying to like think about, no, I'm here to audition. But then you get caught up in networking. And then there's the third type of person who's focused, understands what their mission is, and they're thinking about their lines, they're thinking about their character, so that they can go in and do what they're supposed to do. So I think it always comes down to, again, what's your focus? Can you stay disciplined enough to stay what mission central is, and not let energy that's contagious mess with your focus?
No, that's pretty good. And it's actually, it hits home, because those things are real and those things are pretty consistent.
Yeah.
Things that are consistent are the things that you need to learn from, or you sit up and say, look, these are things that's going to take you down, and you got to say, okay, I got to learn how to deal with, because those situations are coming up. And that's the thing I like about, you know, when you get around people in different fields or different arenas, you know, it's bringing out a different side of you, because this is not my field, you know, like.
But so I got to interrupt you. How did you go? Why are you so hungry for this difference? Because you do mention that a lot. This is not the norm for you, where you're an expert in so many things that you grew up on, that
Right.
you trained for. What has got you so hungry to be able to master this new plateau for yourself? So I'm curious about you, why you've mastered so many things, you know. And not to put you in a box, but obviously athletics, discipline, training, the finesse and beauty of being one of the greatest running backs of all time, which is a thing that, you know, is an undeniable greatness. And now you have a hunger to go elsewhere and to excel and win again in a whole nother arena. What has gotten you so hungry for that? What's driving that?
Well, first of all, anything that is of interest, and if you know the person, to be the best at something, you want to be best at everything. So there's only one way that you look at things. You don't half-ass things. So you want to go at things. And for me, everything is, if I'm going to do something, I want to do it at a high level. And when you talk about this field, you know, when you talk about this space, you have so much information. You have so much to give. But if you don't know how to relay it or to present it, you're going to keep it over here. Because at the same time, you're still prideful. You're still a person. You don't want to come across like, I don't know what I'm doing, I don't know what I'm saying, or I'm doing it the wrong way. Because a lot of times, the way we say things, the way our delivery, it doesn't come across the right way. And so once you learn the right way to deliver the message, now you become more beneficial to people.
Absolutely.
And so for myself, that's where I'm at. I'm like, okay, I'm living a lifestyle, or I'm in a world to where it's uncommon for certain, it's very rare. But if I can present these differences, or we can present all this information, all these experiences to somebody else that may be in a similar situation, it's going to make the world better, because everything comes from a positive space.
So have you always been a teacher? Because this is what you're doing. Your heart is opened up to teach people. And I've seen you in rooms, not public speaking only, but in rooms just in general, where you have this incredible curiosity for life. Have you always been that way?
But first of all, you don't know. I think you sometimes you inherit situations, because you look down and the man up top gives you so much, and you come from the same situation as so many others. You have the same background, the same blood, the same everything, and then you sit back and you say, okay, why me? You know, and that why me kind of drives the curiosity to say, okay, look, there's something different about you as a person. And I think people need to look at themselves and say, okay, why are you different? Because you're different because I think everybody's special in their own way, and what are you going to do with that special? And for me, I try to take that special and hand it out, because life is easy to me. It's like they go left, you go right. You know, it's just like football. You know, when I played ball, everybody used to try to complicate things. I was like, if he does this, I do that. And I have a counter for everything. Yeah. In sports, I have a counter for everything. In life, I have a counter for pretty much everything. And then the things you don't have a counter for, that's when you lean on your person, or lean on the man up top, and you go from there. And so a lot of people don't have that mindset to compartmentalize life or things. And I think that's where it gets tricky, because like, when you know what to do, you do it better, you do it faster, you do it more precise. But when you don't know what to do, you're a little iffy. And I try not to never be in that iffy space, because a lot of this stuff is repetitive.
But even when you're in that iffy space, that's when your fear exists. And that's where, if you can step into your fear, then you can learn and break through that stuff. Because that, for me, that's another phrase that I use a lot, is whatever you're afraid of, you should be going toward that. Because all the greatest breakthroughs in the world have happened because somebody was afraid and they went into that fear. Doesn't mean be irresponsible and stupid and touch the hot stove, right? Or step out into traffic. But that's, nothing got gained by not challenging oneself, and fear is a big part of it. And another thing you said about, why is this happening to me? That is when why is important. You got to question that. Why is this happening? Why am I blessed? Why do I have this innate interest to learn more? Once you start to understand that, then you go out and you apply it. But while you're applying it, you're still not asking why. You're open to it, but you're not asking why, right? Because why is about analyzing. Again, going back to presenting, public speaking, nobody paid $1 or drove a distance to go see you stand on stage and analyze stuff in front of them. That's done in the dark. That's done in your preparation, so that you can gift us the things you've learned when you've analyzed, right? Because we go to any game, any show, any speech, we come to see action. That's what we came for, is action. So people prepare and then bring that action. And then when you're done, then you ask, why did it go good? Why did they laugh? Why did they cry? Why did they not? Why did they throw rotten tomatoes at me? Because you start to have the answers, and then you make the next performance better.
So speaking on going into the speaking, the presentation, that feel, everybody has the information, everybody understands it. What separates the bad from the good from the great and beyond?
There's a couple of things that separate them. One is trusting yourself. I think that's the most primary thing. If you start to trust yourself, then you're no longer in this reptilian brain where you're closed. I have people all the time tell me there was an interruption. The clicker didn't work on my PowerPoint. So now if you're in a yes mindset and you're open, that's okay. You work with it. It's not a problem. It's just another variable in that moment that you have, right? So I think that's a big, big part of it. And you brought up something interesting, is if you have an expertise. I did this a lot with the TED Talks. There's a guy there's a young kid who invented a belt buckle that vibrates because his grandfather is blind and didn't want the stick. It has a sensor on it and it vibrates when his grandfather gets closer to a wall or an object. So he doesn't need a stick anymore. And he had difficulty explaining the science of that because he could tell other people who knew the science what it was, but those of us who are lay people, we have no idea. So that's where the coaching came in really well for him, because I was able to help him translate this really specific data to a bigger audience, which is empowering more people, which is part of the joy of this whole thing. And again, I've noticed that with you too, is that you love empowering other people with the things you know. So it always goes back to trusting who you are.
No, I agree with that. And when I look at somebody like Galinsky, you don't understand the power of somebody that's able to bring something out of you. And I think a lot of people, they have a lot of information, they have a lot that they could give, but due to the fact that they don't know how to.
Exactly.
And the how to is what's holding a lot of people back. So I suggest anybody that if you got information, you have things to give, and you know deep down inside you can help others, you need to get somebody to actually help you bring that out of you.
Absolutely. One of my other phrases that I love is, I didn't make it up, but I came from the beatnik poet Allen Ginsberg and Jack Kerouac. First thought, best thought.
First thought, best thought. Give me what you mean by first thought is best thought.
First,
keep going.
Keep going. Keep going.
Hey, first of all, I had to give credit to my man Andrew, because he's always saying keep going, because when he sees something or he know that there's more, that's actually a good thing, because when you say keep going, is actually bringing more out of the person.
Yeah, and it reinforces your momentum and your confidence too.
Shout out to Big Andrew that says keep
Andrew's
going.
Cool. Keep
Elaborate,
going.
Keep going, give me more.
All right, so I'm going to keep going with first thought, best thought, which is, if your first thought, if you can start to train yourself to trust the first thought, because again, where does it come from? It's not an intellectual thing, really, even though it manifests as a thought. It's your gut. It's your instincts, which is your unique thing, your quality that you have no one else has. So I was teaching this in the South Bronx in a real tough school in the 90s, when sneakers were really breaking out and really important. And this kid says to me, Mr. Galinsky, yeah, some kid scuffs my sneaker. My first thought is to punch him in the head. I'm going,
so
great.
That's what I was getting. I was sitting up here thinking, when you say first thought is the best thought, right? If you grow up in an environment where your natural reaction is not the best decision or the best result, like, how does that phrase hold true?
So I said to the kid, so what was your first thought? Punch him in the head. Okay, so why didn't you? He goes, because my next thought was I would get in trouble. I said, so great, your first thought was your best thought, because it taught you and was a gateway to the next thought, which was the better choice. It doesn't mean you have to act on your first thought, but you accept whatever that is, and then you go, oh, if I'm gonna punch that guy in the head, I'm in trouble. Thank goodness I had that thought. Not that I wanted to act on it, but it's a good thing. It taught me I'm not gonna do that. So to me, first thought, best thought stands for, the first thought is, if you don't use it, it's the gateway to the next thought, the next thought, the next thought, and the next thought. It's a gateway. Just like always reply. Never deny, always reply, never ask why. Kevin Hart, when he's on stage and he gets heckled, he has two choices. Ignore it or reply to it. And when he replies to it, he spins it into magic, into gold. It wasn't pre-written, it wasn't thought, it happened right in the moment. And the rest of us are like, oh my God. So you don't have to do these things, but if you understand them, you then have choices as to when you want to use them. Right. And my other example is Muhammad Ali, which, by the way, I'm blessed to be involved with the Muhammad Ali Center now.
You do something with the center.
Yeah. So Muhammad Ali, how did he invent the rope-a-dope? How did he invent the shuffle, the Ali shuffle? Because he knew the science of boxing so well, and he understood it and practiced it and got so good at it, he could then variate and do stuff that no one ever did before. And if you do that, then you variate and you try something else that's not normal. And if it works like it did for him, great. But if it doesn't work, it's okay, because you go back to what you were trained for.
Foundation.
And you were probably like that too. I mean, in terms of running, right? You had moves and instincts that other people didn't have. But you probably knew, I'm guessing, you tell me, did you know that like, oh, I got to stick to the fundamentals right now because my Edgerrin James razzmatazz uniqueness needs to be put on hold for an instant here because I got to go back to basics.
Well, the foundation is what sets the tone. And once you build a foundation, the creativity, it actually starts to evolve.
Yes.
And as the years go on, you get a little more creative. But it's just like probably one of the better examples is a layup. You can make a layup real easy playing basketball.
Yep.
But you start seeing Kobe Bryant, Michael Jordan, they're going to put all this twist on it. But the end of the whole sequence, it goes back to the normal form of the layup. And that's where you have to go at with situations like that. You build a foundation. The foundation is where you keep going, where you build on. And then once you got a foundation set or laid, now everything else is like bonus.
Yes, exactly. And the world gets benefit from that. And that's where invention happens, right? And that is also stepping into your fear because now you're veering off the foundation, which was proven to work, but now you're going into something else. A lot of times when people start public speaking, acting, or something new, they want to just jump in and go as fast as possible. But if you look at Serena Williams, when she's learning to serve or practicing her serve, it's a slow, I mean, she'll toss the ball up in the air 30 times, 50 times. That one motion. She doesn't go out there and start banging it. Michael Jordan was talking about that, and Kobe, how many free throws they throw over and over and over again just to get the arc and just to get the flow. Then when you're out there, then you add speed to it, but you can't jump in and be fast at something when you're first learning. I got a question for you. Are there certain people in the society that you want to help most? Are there people that you are motivated to connect with more so than others?
For me personally, it's I've always given back. I've always reached back, but I only want the receptive. I only want the people that wants to go somewhere, because over a period of time you realize you waste a lot of time because everybody's not motivated. Everybody don't want to live this certain life, so you have to respect people's wishes. And for me, I've learned that over the years because I think everybody should want to experience the best of the best, but my best and your best may not be the same, and you have to respect people's wishes. But the ones that want it, those are the ones that's gonna, hey, are you available?
Yeah.
They're gonna keep asking. They're gonna keep asking questions. They're hungry for information. And when I go back to myself, my younger self was hungry for information. I wanted this, I wanted that. And when you start looking at life, everybody doesn't want to be a boss. Everybody doesn't want to be a big dog. Everybody doesn't want to do all these things. Some people find peace and serenity in just being home, doing certain things. So you have to respect people's space. And for me, when you say the type of person I want to give to, I want to give to the type of person that has a lot that I had in me, to where I want to have these things. I want to do these things. I want to see every inch of earth. You know, it's like I'm chasing.
I know. All right. Yeah, I know. I know. And ever since I've known you, one of the exciting things is, yes, watching you do your work to create the life, the philosophies, all of that stuff is really exciting. But the other part that's exciting about being around this guy is his hunger to see new things. And you've thrown yourself into, in New York City specifically, which is my home, you've thrown yourself into some of these opportunities, these poetry events that we've gone to, these creative art events that we've gone to. And I've always been blown away because you don't just sit there like a fly on a wall, you are in the mix.
Yeah, you have to. It's like, for me, it's like, to grow, you gotta go. You gotta keep going, you gotta keep going. Keep going.
Keep going.
Keep going. It's like, to grow, you gotta keep going. And it's like, for me, when I talk about creative life, and I talk about being able to teach these courses, because creative life is actually turned into a course to where people can actually subscribe to, and they'll be able to come in and actually be taught sometimes you have to learn from somebody, and I'm experiencing it.
Yep.
I'm actually living it. I'm putting myself in situations. I'm making sure, but every time I do something new, I tap into another side of my brain, my memory, and my experiences. I get to say, man, dang, I've done that. And it's just like a sportscaster, right, that has never played the game. He can't tell me about the game.
Yeah.
They can tell me what they know or what they seen
Right.
or what they heard, but I played the game. And so you talk about creative life. Everybody lives life, but everybody doesn't play the same exact game. And that's where I'm coming from. I'm like, man, look, I up and went out the country. I lived that thing. So if we go back to when we was talking about the confidence, you can't tell me about what it's like to be in this country or in this space when I'm actually there living it and you only heard about it. And I think more people need people that can actually give them true examples to say, look, this is what I've done. A lot of times we're learning information or we're receiving information from people who haven't experienced things. It's like, if I want to know about speaking, I want to know about performance, I'm going to Galinsky, I'm going to somebody in that field, because that's what you do.
Yeah.
And we take advice and information a lot of time from people who have never actually did it. And my rule is, if you haven't done it, no disrespect to you or whatever, but I'm going to find the person that's done it.
I'll talk to you when you've done it. Go tell me when you did it. Then give me your experiences, right?
I need experience from the person that has done it.
Yeah.
It's like, you can't tell me about, if you've never been in a relationship, I don't want to hear about a relationship. If you've never been married and this and that, if you haven't lived in a situation that's, don't tell me all these things. It's good that you can give me a little insight on it, but I need a person that's living that. And it's just like in business. In business, you don't go to the carpenter and say, man, look, hey, this is how you build a house. Okay, you're in the field, but no, the house is a whole nother game.
Right.
And don't tell me about art or don't tell me about
where I should be investing.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And from a cultural thing, we always have this thing where somebody say, oh, when you see athletes blew their money or somebody say, oh, you should go invest. I would have invested in it. No, you don't even know because you haven't done it.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Because you heard about it. It's like, let's not follow the people who aren't actually doing it. I mean, that's my approach, and I always try to stay neutral in everything I do, because there's things that work for certain people that may not work for me. But you always want to stay in a space to where, look, let's stop misleading people, and you see it too much.
Yeah, and again, going back to, you got to have confidence to speak about what you know. But you, again, go back, what you don't know, you don't need to be talking about. You need to be listening more than you are talking, right? Because like you're saying, who do you go to when you need information? Somebody with experience. This kind of brings me to the other pillar, the 5 points that you have, which is community and network, right? Who are you with? I'm curious about you. If you can tell us a little bit about how community and networking work for you and the way you see that, because part of what we're talking about is, like my community, I have guys and women in my life that bring good things to me, whether they're things I want or need or brand new stuff I never thought of. So I want to hear about community network.
With community networking for myself, it's a bit tricky, because you have to kind of destroy the old you because of where you come from.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And you have to actually be receptive to the new you and the new things that come with it. Because if you meet me if I would have met you at 21, 22, 23, I probably would have just met you and that was it, because I wasn't receptive. It's like, I have no purpose. We have nothing in common. You do speaking stuff.
And you're not interested even.
I'm not interested.
Yeah.
And so you're not receptive. And so we say community networking, I think, is all timing. I think it's all situational. But once you get a chance to embrace and receive, you have to be willing to let go. And that's part of the problem. People, and this is just from my personal experiences, A lot of times I see people, they're afraid or they're not willing to let go of things that have made them comfortable or things that they're used to, and they're kind of in their vibe or in their flow. When you say, okay, look, to elevate, you gotta say, man, look, I'll see y'all later. I'm not disowning y'all, but I'm going to another level. And for myself, I've got a chance to be in different rooms. The more I've gotten comfortable with not being around my original circle, I've seen things elevate for myself personally.
And I bet that, because this is another thing that I've thought about to connect to what you're saying, is when you go away, whether it's leave your hometown or you go away to a camp for 3 weeks or 6 weeks, and then you come home, sometimes people will not recognize you anymore because you are different, and they won't even accept you. It's like, what? You came back as a different person, hopefully better, right? And you've come back as a different person. That's not the guy that was here 6 weeks ago, or last year. And the person who left has to be confident enough to say, I left the old me behind, parts of the old me behind, and now the better me is here, right?
But it's one of those things where, you know, your interest level is going to change. You know, it's like I can't. It's like how many times am I going to come home, or I'm going to go around a circle, and we're going to repeat stories,
oh my God, yeah.
Or we're going to just talk about shallow things
or complain.
Yeah, and that's one thing. Like, I'm not a complainer. I'm a solution person. I'm gonna figure out what to do, how to do something, and keep moving forward. But so you outgrow the people. You know, and the thing I'll do is I don't mind outgrowing you, because there's always a thing that I'm gonna do for you. I'm gonna give you an opportunity to actually be present and grow with me. But if you make the decision to not go up, I don't feel bad. I don't feel like, dang, I left my, like we said, I left my dog, I left my homeboy, I don't feel bad because I gave you the opportunity. I told you, like, these are things I'm about to be doing. You know, hey, you can get on board, you can come or you can sit, but it's just natural. If we're talking about two different things, it's like the natural reaction gonna be no interest. Like, how can I sit there and I'm not interested in what you're talking about? But if we're actually moving together, we're both going to be interested.
You seem to be somebody that is okay with being in the uncomfort zone, right? And you're talking about the people that we're talking about, old friends, right? They don't like getting into the unknown and that uncomfortable space, and that's why they sometimes get left behind. No harm, no insult, but that is not where I want to be. I want to keep going, and that sounds like what you did.
It's so important to become comfortable being uncomfortable.
Yes.
I know, like, it's so important. That's where the growth starts.
When I walk into any prison and jail, and I've walked into about 25 in my lifetime now, from Sing Sing Maximum to Juilliard. Juilliard's not a prison. Sing Sing Maximum to Rikers Island, which is a hellhole. Right. I have to be very comfortable because it's uncomfortable the entire time. And because I am in the mindset of getting comfortable in that, I'm able to do what I do. And that's when people go, wow, how do you do that? Right? Even the kids in the room, even the other incarcerated individuals in the room are like, wow, how do you do that? I get to the things that I am working with you on with public speaking and other clients of mine, I get to do that with those guys in an atmosphere where when people come in, they're so on guard. Right. They're not comfortable in that uncomfortable space. All the growth happens there.
Man, and that's, I've actually found joy in being in uncomfortable spaces.
Yeah, it's more exciting, right?
It's like I go to these spaces, even you say, hey, meet me over here. I don't know where I'm going, you know? But the thing I do, I know the person that's inviting me is not gonna put me in a bad space. But at the same time, when I get there, you know, now it's game on.
Yes.
Like, it's game on. Like, I might be the only black person in there. It doesn't matter to me. You know, it's like, it doesn't matter where I'm at, what I'm doing. I'm gonna set up because I'm gonna always be Edge. I'm gonna always be me. And at some point in time, I'm gonna make friends. And if it's bad people, I won't make friends.
Yeah.
And then because and that's where that confidence and self comes.
And that's why one of the many reasons I like being around you is because that's contagious.
Yeah.
Like you came to this event called the Unsent Letter, which was featured on Kelly Clarkson. Right?
I can't read my letter.
So it's a great thing. It's a great project. Look up Unsent Letter. And I was wondering, I got to be honest. I was like, it was strange to me a little bit too. You go in there and you write a personal letter to somebody, put it in an envelope, and it's never going to get to that person, but somebody else in the room is going to potentially read it. Right. And I was like, what am I bringing Edge into? Oh no, what's going on? And you dove in. You pulled the thing out. He was writing on the wall with his piece of paper. I looked over and
But that's what it's about. If you're gonna grow, you gotta go. You gotta keep going and going.
Keep going.
Keep doing things that aren't the norm. But at the same time, you gotta make sure that you position yourself. If you have an end goal or you have something in mind, like I'm gonna teach, I'm gonna give, people gonna be able to sign up to Create Life. You want live.com, and they're gonna be able to get true teachings, but your teacher is going to be an expert. And that's what I want to be. I want to be a life expert. You have life coaches and you have different people that people are leaning on. And I'm out in the field because I want to be able to, if I tell you something, I want you to be able to be so confident and so sure that there's facts behind it and you're going to get the consistent results.
Yep. Yeah. And some of those consistent results are surprises, right?
Absolutely.
Right? Because it's not about, I'm going out there to get what I expect. Maybe that's cool and that's part of it. But going out there and get like, wow, what blew my mind? Or what did I learn that I can add to what I do as well?
Right.
And that's about that exploring and being out in that uncomfortable.
You have to learn to be comfortable being uncomfortable. But we're here on the Create Life podcast, and we're going through these pillars like this, like it's just effortless. I got my man Galinsky, and one of the pillars we have is financial freedom. I know you was going into that.
Yeah.
But financial freedom, that's one of the most important parts to me because, cash flow is the heartbeat of every company. The finances is what usually determines if a person is going to be who they really say they are, or who they really want to be, or who they really are. It's like, it separates people. Finances separates people. And when you're going into these fields, I like to always talk to the audience about, if we're talking about something specific, we're talking about the like your performance coach, you're going into that right there. Like financially, there's no God. So when I say, okay, Galinsky, how do you set the bar? If somebody says, man, I want to be a performance coach, or I want to be in that space, I want to be like Galinsky or something like that, how do you come up with a number?
A number meaning what it costs them? And literally,
what
is that
it
what you mean?
costs to actually do, be, receive, I'm talking about anything in that field.
Well, one thing I had to learn was to not be afraid of asking for what I feel like I'm worth. And I went to other people that were doing similar stuff that I was doing. And they were like, you got to put the value, one, on what you think you're worth, and then also look at what's this market that's out here as well, that you are competing. And I think that, I think I'm going blank on your question.
You shouldn't go blank because you've been living it.
Yeah, so.
Keep going.
Keep going. Keep going. I think it's just rephrase that question for me though.
So what I'm saying is, if I'm in a field, because we're all entrepreneurs, and I love the entrepreneur spirit and energy, and I want to do this, but I do not know how to put a dollar amount on it. And you start looking at it, and you partially answer the question because you say, I went to a couple people in that field, but you're in a niche where it's totally different. It's a space that's totally different.
Yep.
And there's no right or wrong.
No.
How do you go about it from a financial aspect?
Yeah, you have to put value on yourself and I think there's like a median point that I've established for myself, which is like, I'm here. There will be times where I know there's clients or there's organizations where I can ask for more. I'll tell you when this is completely transparent. The Walton family hired me for a gig at their offices to train some of their interns. And the woman who I pitched it to, she said, what would you charge for a day? And I gave her a number. And she went, oh, and I'm thinking, I outpriced myself, damn it. She goes, could you triple that? This is the Walton family we're talking about here. I was like, yeah, of course I can triple that.
That's a good lady that's in your corner.
She's in my corner. And it woke me up too to like the next gig down the line. I was like not as afraid and not as nervous. And I was like, who are they paying? How are they paying? What are their resources? And for me, I also balance it. Like, I'm not getting rich going to Rikers Island jail.
Right.
But because I get some clients that pay me top premium dollar over here, it allows me to go in to serve and give a little back over here.
So you balance the charity with
exactly
the true business.
Yeah.
Like for myself, I always look at things like, you're always gonna get called to, hey, can you do this appearance or can you do this? And I look at my normal day. It's like nobody's gonna treat me worse than I treat myself. So I'm gonna fly a certain way. I'm gonna live a certain way. I'm gonna do certain things. So we automatically, if we're not talking in that field, in that area,
yeah,
that right there kind of throws things from the beginning. So you can kind of gauge the type of person you're dealing with.
Yeah,
it's like, and then you start breaking everything. Somebody say, I'm gonna give you X amount of dollars to come here for this time. And for me, my formula has always been, okay, I gotta always bring something back home. That's the first thing.
And pay for the trip and pay for the expenses.
But bring something back home is outside of that.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
So it's like, okay, I'm never going to travel by myself. I'm going to always have people with me, and I'm not going to let you treat me less than I would treat myself. So my hotel, my accommodations has to be right. So that's how I try to get in the formula of it. And then once you get established, you started building from there, because I can't do something to take a loss.
Yeah.
And for anybody that's out there that's trying to come up with what they're worth, first of all, you have to be who you are as far as your norm. If you say, okay, I need transportation, this is how I travel, these are the things right here, that right there sets a baseline of, but I have to have these things. And after I do all these things, okay, what am I really getting? And that right there was always a starting point for myself.
And I think something you emphasize, which is important under financial freedom, is there has to be something you tangibly take home. Of course you're going to take home experiences. Of course you're going to take home networking and new relationships, which is very important. But you got to take something home that puts bread on the table as well.
Yeah, to keep it going.
And not to demean those relationships. Sometimes I do a gig or an event where I know that it may not be the highest paying gig. It still makes me, I still make some money, I still pay the bills, but what is important is connecting with those people that are there.
Relationship capital.
Yeah, community networking,
capital.
Right? Relationship capital.
Together.
So the Create the Life Institute, when will that open its doors? Because you have everything. You've got a curriculum basically, you've got an outline, you've got the foundations of what needs to be learned for people. And so is there a goal? Is Create the Life always going to be a brand that exists in conversation and through these incredible podcasts that you do? Or do you see it as a vision of someday codifying it into something that people can actually almost print out and other people can teach it?
Well, we actually have modules, we have everything, of course, that people want to be able to sign up for. But sometimes when you're somebody that has did things at a high level and that's your mindset, sometimes you want things to be perfect, you want things to be right. It's like I could start today, but I'm still working on my stuff because I want to make sure that it's right. And, Dentley, Coach Dentley, he always say, don't let good be enemy of the great. It's like, don't sit up there and try to make sure that you're trying to be so great that good becomes your enemy when it's like good is good enough. And hopefully I said that the right way, because he's always telling me, like, man, you have it, go ahead and do it. But for me, I just wanted to be right. Like, the courses should be out probably by next year. I want to have courses because I'm actually living it. Every topic, every conversation, these conversations right here, they also influence and they inspire, you know, the course in general, because I'm a facts person. You know, I'm talking it, I'm living it, and if you go through and you get behind it, you believe it, because people actually believe in you. And I don't want to ever come across as a fraud or somebody who don't know what they're talking about.
No, I actually, these podcasts, I've watched a bunch of them. They are the groundwork for those courses, those modules, right? This is the research. This is the
real life research.
Exactly.
You know, I actually have workbooks. I have everything. So Creative Life is, it's one of those things where it's like, what's the rush? If I was a money hungry person, or I was somebody like, okay, yeah, I gotta have this right now.
Yeah.
I could have been done this stuff, because Creative Life has been out for a while. But for myself, it's more so, let me make sure it's right. So when you get a workbook, when you get this information, you're pretty much guaranteed to elevate your life, because it's all based on facts. And the fact that I've been able to come from one of the poorest cities in the state of Florida to actually be around millionaires and billionaires and people that actually have been successful, my story is a real story, because you're coming from ground level. You have some people that grew up in these situations where they don't get a chance to see the bottom of the barrel. They don't get a chance to see the person that has to really grind it out and made it.
So that reminds me of something that is in a piece that I wrote, where people are like, well, when you go into these jails and prisons, you're dealing with the worst of the worst. And I say to them, maybe they're the best of the best, because nobody has been born into that trauma or that poverty, that they are the best of the best because they've done more to get out. They're facing more challenges than the average person is. So the worst of the worst is an easy cliche to drop on people. But when you really look at those people, they can be the best of the best, because they come out of something that they didn't get one gift when they were born. And they fought, or they were innately had the power to do it. So I don't jive with worst of the worst. I like best of the best.
No, I love that, man. The best of the best. We're always looking for the best, and we're always trying to become the best. That's what Creative Life is about. We got my boy Robert Galinsky, this performance coach, this elevator, you know. And so when I look at the people you've worked with, you know, who are some of the top people? It's like I saw you work with 50 Cent or something like that. And when you start seeing people of that caliber, and you see what they've elevated to do, like, is there like some type of feeling you be sitting back like that proud father you just sit back and be like, and I remember when dude was this or that, you know? So like,
totally. And it's a balance of trying to not be cocky, but really reveling in what you did, right? And so with 50, this is where luck meets opportunity. I auditioned for something, didn't hear back. 6 months later, I got a call. Hey, remember you auditioned for us for that movie? I was like, yeah, oh man, I must have got the part. No, you didn't get the part. Ah, what? But there's a guy named 50 Cent. The person didn't even know who he was at the time. There's a guy named 50 Cent, and he's auditioning with Robert De Niro and Al Pacino next week. And you kind of look a little bit like De Niro. We want to bring you in to read some lines with him. Would you do that? Hell yeah, right? Of course. Hell yeah, 20 blocks away. No money, 20 blocks away, I'm going to read with 50 Cent. So I read with 50 and the director. It was 15 minutes, that was all it was. And then as I'm leaving, he pulls me aside, he goes, hey man, you're good. Will you coach me? And I was like, hell yeah, let's do it. And then I gave him a rate, right? And then I said, but I do have a rate. What's your rate? I gave him my number. And he was like, no problem. So we worked for another week and a half, I think it was. It was his opportunity to be in the movie Righteous Kill. It was one of his first movies, right? And there was a great moment where he has a studio up on 30th Street on the west side, and I'm in the studio, and you walk in, there's like 5 different studios. There's about 8 or 10 guys hanging out in different places, right? So we go into this private music studio, and we start working. And I had to check myself. I said, I gotta go to the bathroom. I went in the bathroom, I looked in the mirror, I was like, dude, don't look at him, he's not a star. He's a client right now. Right. And you can't rip him off because you look at him like a star, you're cheating him of what you gotta give him. So, I mean, I literally went into the bathroom to look in the mirror, came back out full of energy. And so we were improvising and he still wasn't pushing it. And I was like, you're being too safe. And then I said, can I, because it's in the script. I'm like, do you mind if we improvise? Do you mind if I say that, drop the N word? He was like, of course, don't worry about it. So now we go at it. He's screaming on me, I'm screaming on him. And within 30 seconds, the door burst open. His guys come running in. And I look at 50, I was like, that's it, you nailed it, that's it. These guys coming in to kick my ass, that's what you want. And he was like, yes, I got it. And then I'm looking at the guys, I'm going, what are you all running in here for? Like, I'm gonna give him a challenge, guys? But it was pretty fun, and it was a great moment. Somebody else that I love working with is Nile Rodgers. Now, a lot of people don't know him by name, but if you turn a radio on or put a Spotify on, you're going to hear one of Nile Rodgers' songs. We Are Family, Freak Out, Let's Dance from David Bowie, Daft Punk's Get Lucky. I mean, it's Stevie Ray Vaughan, the Thompson Twins, Madonna's Like a Virgin, his own music, Diana Ross's #1 hit, I'm Coming Up. He did all of that, and when I'm working with him, it's in his foundation, and we're working with teenagers that are trying to change the world. And just listening to his stories, because he's been all over the world, just listening to his stories, there's always a nugget of wisdom in it. So I think that people forget too, especially in our social media age, listening is so huge. It sounds cliche, but listening is the power. As a writer, I listen. Some of the greatest lines that I think are in some of my work, I've heard them elsewhere. I didn't invent them. But you hear stuff and you pick it up and you work with it. So Nile is just a great human being, and the stories he tells, there's a nugget every time.
That's my man, Robert Galinsky, man. Creative Life Podcast, man. Man, first of all, I'm glad that you was able to come on.
I'm glad you asked me.
Hopefully this is not the only time that you're on, because we want to continue to elevate, uplift, go to the next level, and we have more to talk about. But this is just a little small peek into what Creative Life is all about. You know, we want to try to motivate, inspire, uplift people, and stay within those 5 pillars, because those pillars, mindset, self-mastery, financial freedom, community networking, lifestyle, leisure, those things right there pretty much covers life. And for myself, when I get people like yourself that's able to come on here and give insight, you know, I think it's beneficial to the community, the cultures, and actually to help us go to another level as a whole.
Absolutely, and the time well spent here, like I learned a lot. Every time I'm with you, like I said, but today was a great opportunity to learn more from your experiences and also to be able to share. So thanks for letting me have the opportunity to share with everybody.
There you have it, man. Creative Life Podcast. I got my man, Robert Galinsky, and
we're going to keep going, and keep going.
Appreciate you, brother.
All right, man. Thanks.